having a good time so far, hopefully. So it was laid on my heart. It's just kind of... It was laid on my heart to just kind of share my testimony and what God has done, and why this theme, restoration through the resurrection, was laid on my heart. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I'm going to start with a story about my mom, actually. 21 years ago, a little over 21 years ago, she was pregnant. She was 6 weeks along when she started to get the symptoms and experience feelings of miscarriage. She went to the doctor and they explained to her that the baby was pulling away from the source of nutrients, pulling away from the lining and such, and she was going to miscarry. So, of course, a bunch of doctor's appointments go by, and she keeps going. They're like, there's nothing we can really do. I mean, there's this one possibility of possibly making the baby stronger. But the other doctor was like, no, it's not going to help. The doctor eventually saying that around 3 or 4 months, around 4 months usually, a baby starts to gain weight. When the baby begins to gain weight, it will just naturally pull away completely, and you'll miscarry. My mom was on bed rest before that, and now she had to be on bed rest and just wait until she lost her baby. When she got home from the doctor's appointment, she wasn't saved yet, but she knew of God. When she got home, she knelt down and it was in prayer. And for the first time, she experienced complete surrender to the Lord. She surrendered her worry and her anxiety over this. She said, I just don't want it anymore. Lord, your will. She surrendered the baby to the Lord. 5 days later, she goes to the doctors, and the doctor was doing the ultrasound in her stomach, and he just said, I can't find it. And she said, what, you can't find the baby? And he said, no, listen, you could hear the heartbeat of that baby. And she said, well, what can't you find then? And he said, I can't find the tear. There was no scarring, no sign of a miscarriage whatsoever in my mom's stomach. A few months later, she gave birth to a 9-pound, I believe it was 8-ounce baby, full head of hair. And that baby was me. So here I am 21 years later to be able to tell you just that one moment of God's sovereignty, his love, and before she was even saved. I was shortly after they were saved, so I was raised in a Christian household. At 10 years old, I gave my life to Christ, and I do believe that I was saved at 10 years old. But just a year later, when I was 11, my world just turned upside down. My parents told us that our home church was no longer going to be our home church. After, I guess, 9-10 years, we were at that church, and my best friends were there. It was all I'd ever known for a church. I became angry. I was angry at my parents for doing this, and I was angry at God. How could you do this to me? I kept saying. Don't you know that middle school is hard enough without this? Through middle school, I was bullied for whatever they could find. And then I had a friend that was bad influence, and it was just none of middle school was good for me. It was hard, and I struggled with loneliness, and I struggled with anger and unforgiveness, and I didn't know where to place it. I knew that I was just praying, God, take this. I don't want it. I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but I wasn't completely surrendering it to the Lord. So carry this into high school. It all became deeper. It became depression and anxiety. And if anybody knows what depression or anxiety feels like, put them together and it's like you're suffocating. You feel too little or too much. And that's what I felt like. I didn't know how to get rid of it. I was in this tunnel. There was no light. and I felt like the walls were just closing in. I didn't go to my parents. I didn't go to my older sister, who I've always looked up to. Despite looking up to her, that became resentment towards my older sister, because I never felt that I could compare to my older sister. She was athletic, she was beautiful, she was easy to get along with, she was loved. And instead of putting that in a healthy way of wanting to fix the characteristics that I needed to fix in myself, I allowed it to be resentment. So my relationship with my sister was non-existent. My relationship with my parents, well, I was still angry with them, so I couldn't talk to them. And I didn't turn to God. My relationship with him was not there anymore. Instead, when I began to struggle more and I had a good group of friends, I turned to them because I wanted that attention. I needed to feel like I was important and good enough. And for some reason, I was afraid I wasn't going to get it at home. Nothing my parents ever did, but the enemy just constantly lied to me and said that they have Alyssa. They're proud of Alyssa. And they were, but they were also proud of me. But I never allowed myself to believe that. Junior year, I began to struggle more with insecurities and doubt. And I began to struggle with an eating disorder. So I was struggling with depression, anxiety, and eating disorder, and I had no idea what to do. I didn't know who I was because I didn't know where to place that. I put my parents, the relationship with my family was non-existent. I just didn't care. I stayed in my room, and I was very woe is me. I was very, well, this is happening to me and no one cares. God, where are you now? Where have you been? I don't hear you. You're non-existent, I guess. For a year and a half, I struggled very deeply with these things. Senior year comes, and my family was now in a legal nationwide case, and I was the face of it. My senior year was the hardest, but a wonderful and amazing year all at once. In the middle of this case, fighting to keep under God and the Pledge of Allegiance, for those who don't know, in North Jersey, an atheist family was suing the school district because they felt their children were being ostracized because of under God and the Pledge of Allegiance. We fought and we ended up claiming victory the following year over this. It was an amazing experience, and really it was a testament to God's faith, to God's faithfulness. Because even though I had doubts about him, he still used me. He still used my brokenness for his good and his glory. The same year, my parents, they were struggling with what to do because they saw me struggling, and they saw me putting those struggles, instead of in a healthy way and dealing with them, I was using it, I was allowing it to fester, and it was coming out with attitude, and it was coming out in bad behavior. I was lying, and I just wasn't obeying them or the Lord. And they sat across the table from me, and I remember them, I can picture it all still, and they just said, do you not feel any conviction for what you're doing? We don't even recognize you anymore. Little did they know, I hadn't recognized myself for years. I had no idea who I was and what I was doing. I was just going with the flow to see what happened, which didn't really help much because I was struggling very deeply. I was lonely, and I was hopeless and helpless. They said that, and it definitely pulled a string in me, and I knew that I needed to be better because I just did. They deserved better, and God deserved way more than what I was giving him credit for. 2 years ago today, Good Friday service. It was the first one that the college group was actually hosting. I wasn't planning on going, and somehow I ended up here. That was the same night that I rededicated my life to the Lord, and I couldn't tell you what was said. I had no idea. But I remember feeling the call on my heart and the conviction. And God was just saying, come home. He was saying, come home and I will restore you. Come home and I will give you a refuge, a safe place. I will put back the broken pieces and I will make you new. The Lord restored my relationship with my sister. She's my best friend now. He has restored my relationship with my parents and all my family, really. We are a very close-knit family. And I'm so thankful for that because I don't know what I would do without them. I don't know how I did it without them. He has restored my relationship with Jesus, my hope in him, and my faith. And he has restored how I dealt with things. I'm not saying it's easy. Once I rededicated my life to the Lord, I still can fall into a depression. I still struggle with anxiety. I was experiencing anxiety right before I came up here, to be honest. But now I know where I can put those burdens. You know, the Lord's burden is light and his yoke is easy. And I praise God that he has shown me that. He has restored my outlet. I wrote all those years of struggling, and I started a blog actually this past October, I think it was, and every now and then I'll post a writing and I'll share where I'm at now. And I'm able to share with the world the struggles that I went through and how I got through them. And the only way I got through them was Christ alone. He has restored every aspect of my life. Who I am now is completely different than who I was then. The point of tonight, or not just the point, but the idea of the theme tonight is restoration through the resurrection. You are restored through the resurrection, Jesus' resurrection. Before we were even born, before we could sin against him and do all these terrible things to him, doubt him, he died on the cross so that we could be free of that burden. He restored our lives the moment that he died on that cross. He saw a reason for this. The moment that he came back to life, he was our now link to God. From what Adam and Eve destroyed, Jesus' resurrection, his crucifixion and resurrection, was the link. Restoration happens through an ongoing process. It's not just now that you're saved, he's going to make everything perfect. I'm restored. He has restored so much until now, and I know he's going to continue to restore. But only through Christ can you experience that restoration. He has turned my life completely upside down for the good this time. And I can't even put into words how grateful I am for that, for his grace, despite the fact that I believe that he wasn't even there anymore. So tonight, I want you to feel restored, and if not tonight, I hope soon that you do feel restored, that the broken pieces that you cannot put together on your own are restored and put together through him. He is the only way that it'll ever be restored. I'm thankful that I can stand up here and tell you this, because there was a time that I just didn't want my life to be. I didn't want to be here. And none of it made sense. I was not passionate about anything whatsoever. He restored that in me. I do hope, again, that you can experience that. He has sent different people in my life, angels on earth, I guess you can call them, and I hope you don't ignore that. I hope that your heart is open and your eyes are open for the blessings that he is sending you, that everything that you once were doesn't need to be anymore because of his sacrifice. Sorry, there was trying to get my thoughts together. My book isn't up here, but sorry. I guess that's really all I have, but I hope that you can be restored. His restoration is everything you need. And that can happen tonight if you want it. When you completely surrender the things of this world, you will find your identity in Him. His identity is your identity.